What's going on, guys? We are in the house. We are live, in effect. How you guys doing tonight? You good? Samuel, what's going on, my good man? Troy, how are you, sir? I'm going to start my opening rant tonight. What's going on, guys? I'm going to start my opening rant tonight by starting with the playoff picture, right? I want to start with what I've seen so far. What's going on, guys? Hello, Jillian, dear. No problem. What I've seen so far, not just this season, but in the weeks that have just passed. So we'll start at the top of the Western Conference. Phoenix has shown that, to me, that they still are one of the most complete teams in the game. And once they get Chris Paul back, I think they're going to be, they're rolling still, right? They're rolling still. I think that Booker is a star. I think that he has slowed his game down to be woven into the team. And I think that that has downplayed how good he really is. And that hasn't hampered his game at all. In fact, I think it has enhanced his game. But I think it's downplayed to a lot of people how good he is. When I watch Mikal Bridges, and I catch a lot of heat for this, but Mikal Bridges, he reminds me of Eddie Jones. That's who I see when I see him. He can't score it like Eddie, but that's who he reminds me of. Eddie Jones in that mold. And I was a huge Eddie Jones fan when I was in school, when I was younger. I like everything that this Phoenix team is doing. And I think that they're also one of the deepest teams in the game. They go 9-10 deep. Ayton is one of the better bigs in the game. And I do think that they're going to represent the Western Conference in the finals again. Memphis has come out of nowhere. People can say whatever they want about Memphis. I'm 100% certain that there isn't anybody here, not just here, there isn't anybody who can truthfully say, yo, I had Memphis at the top of the Western Conference before the season started. I don't think that there's anybody who could truthfully say we really had a chance to be at the top of the Western Conference, because nobody knew how good Desmond Bane was going to be, right? Nobody knew how good Brooks was going to be. Nobody knew what was going to happen with Ja. Nobody knew what was going to happen with how Steven Adams was going to be woven into this team. Nobody knew how that was going to work. So the idea that we had the Memphis Grizzlies at the top of the Western Conference, I'm not buying it at all. I'm not buying 1 minute of it. No way. The Golden State Warriors, and I catch some heat for this as well, I think that they're going the other way. I absolutely think that they're going the other way. They're slowly unraveling. They're not going to get Steph Curry back until the playoffs, and that frightens me. And the reason why that frightens me is because we're talking about a team with championship aspirations who's not going to get their best scorer back until the playoffs. So does that mean that before the playoffs start, we're going to send him to the G League for a couple of games to get his rhythm back? Is that how that's going to work? Klay Thompson has been up and down, and he's been the guy who I've said before the season started that this wouldn't be an elite season for him, while everybody was saying that this guy was going to be back to being Klay Thompson. In fact, not only has it not been an elite season, I think he hampered when he came back into the lineup. I think he hampered Jordan Poole because Jordan Poole was rolling. And he's one of their better young players. And when Klay got back into the lineup, now we have to find run for him, right? Now we have to find run for him. So add that to the fact that Gary Payton II has been in and out of the lineup, which I'm foggy about. He's actually been playing really good, but he's been in and out of the lineup. Wiseman also had a setback that I was surprised about. I thought that he was getting back on track and there would be no reason why he couldn't get back in the lineup, only to find out that he had a setback, which suggests to me that he was further along. He was further away than they told us about. He was a lot further away than what they told us about. So I look at this Golden State unit, and they look like they're going the other way. I said this before, and I stand on it. I wouldn't be surprised if they got bounced in round one. That would not surprise me if they lost in the first round. I don't think that they're going to. And I'm going to get to that. that fourth seed with Utah. Utah is very much in the conversation for me with the Jazz, with the Mavericks. They're very much in that conversation. They're a team that can win a first round playoff game, but there's something missing. And I think it's the coach. I do. I don't think that they're using Rudy correctly. And it's not that Rudy's got to change his game, because I don't think he has to change his game at all. I think that they just need to use him differently. Donovan Mitchell is becoming who he is. Right around now, I think he's becoming who he is. But I don't think that they have enough scoring. You know, O'Neal has been inconsistent, right? O'Neal has been inconsistent. I think picking up Whitehouse was big for them because he helps them in a lot of ways. I'm surprised that Eric Pascal doesn't play more, because he was really good with the Warriors. And I'm surprised that he doesn't play more in Utah, because he could help them a lot. He could absolutely help them a lot. Mike Conley's been solid, which I've expected out of him, right? I've expected that out of Mike Conley, to be solid. And he's been that. But the problem that we're having is when you get to the Western Conference playoffs, being solid isn't good enough. It's not good enough. You're going to have to be better. And I think that they'll win a first-round playoff series, but they haven't shown me any evidence that they could get any further than that. So I think that they're a semifinals bow out. I think that's legit with them. When I look at this Dallas team, I'm looking at a team in Dallas that they got one star and a bunch of B and C guys. That works if you're going to build the team around this guy, and eventually these guys are going to come into form, because that's what happened with Houston in 1993-94. But that star has to turn into a superstar, like what Olajuwon did. He's got to have that type of season. And not only does he have to have that type of season, those other guys have to step their game up. So Kenny Smith had to get better. Mario Elie had to get better. Otis Thorpe had to step his game up. Vernon Maxwell, all of those guys had to get better, and they did. Well, when I look at what Dallas is doing and I look at Luka, I don't know how much better Luka can get. And can he have that superstar season like Olajuwon, like Bryant, like James? Can he have that kind of season where he's elite on both sides of the basketball? I think that could very well be the difference in them going from an average playoff team, which they are now. They're an average playoff team who's a first-round exit again this year, to turning themselves into something different. When I look at Denver is a half game out of the play-in tournament. One half game. They got one guy who's really good, but when I look at the rest of those guys, Will Barton, when I look at Aaron Gordon, these are also B and C guys. Now, when you get into the playoffs, I don't think that they're going to get Jamal Murray back this season. I doubt very seriously. I think he's in the same conversation in terms of health as Leonard. I don't think that they're going to get him back. They're not going to risk it, because there's no reason for them to bring him back. There's no reason for them to bring him back this late, because he's not going to have that much of an impact on them. He hasn't played all season. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a guy who tore up his knee over a year ago. We're going to bring him back close to the playoffs and expect them to be competitive with the guy who hasn't played all season, who hasn't been in rhythm, who's not sure who he is at this point. I think that it's difficult to put him in that situation, and I don't think that they're going to do that. And I think the same thing for MPJ. I look at what he's doing in terms of his rehab, and I don't think that they want to risk having another setback with him and possibly losing him next season too, because he had back surgery, which put him out 3 months. 3 months. And when I look at this Denver team, I think that they have what they have, and I think that they're going to roll with that, and I think that they're going to be competitive in the first round. So, like I just said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Warriors lost in the first round, because I'm looking at that Denver team, and I think that Denver team throws a lot of things at them that are difficult. They don't have an answer for what Jokic brings collectively, and that would be a problem for them. And we know that Curry, when the playoff starts, he does this. And not only does he do that, he struggles with length defensively. When bigger guys, more athletic guys are on him, he struggles with guys like that. So that goes back to my original point that I'm not sure, or I wouldn't be surprised if the Warriors got bounced in the first round by the Nuggets. Now I look at this Minnesota team, and I'm telling you, man, you better watch out. You better watch out because they're a half a game out of the 6th spot. And I think that they could give the Warriors, I think they could jump Denver, number one. Because I've said since the beginning of the season, if D'Angelo Russell is healthy, I think this is a playoff team. I said that from the beginning of the season, and I said it last season. If D'Angelo Russell is healthy, I think this team is a playoff team. Come to find out, they are, because he's been healthy. He's that floor general that they didn't have last year. He's that playmaker that they didn't have last year. He's that floor spreader that they didn't have last year. He's that distributor that they didn't have last year. He's the guy who enables Edwards to be who he is. He's that guy who enables Cat to be more of who he is. And I think that as long as he stays healthy, I think that they're going to be a problem. I very well think that they could get that 6th spot and get out of the play-in tournament. In the 8th spot, the Clippers are Leonard and Paul George away from challenging for the NBA championship. I thought last season, before Leonard got hurt, I was pretty convinced that the Jazz-Clippers winner was going to the finals. And had Leonard stayed healthy, I think they beat Phoenix. I don't think that they beat Phoenix. I think they handle Phoenix in 6 games tops. I don't think that series goes 7. I think that they handle them because they have a lot of really good players, a lot of B players. But the difference is their A players are better than a lot of other teams' A players. So if Leonard is healthy, I think he's a top 5 player in the game. If he's healthy, Paul George is definitely a top 10 player when he's healthy. Top 15, arguably a top 10 player when he's healthy. And he was playing like that. He was playing like a top 10 player before he got hurt. Absolutely he was. And I think Ty Lue has done a great job with that Clipper team. But I think that they're an early exit. I do believe that because they don't have the Leonard guy. They don't have the Paul George. They don't have that guy to get them over the hump. I think that's the difference with them. When I look at the Lakers, whenever I see the Lakers and people get on me, oh, gee, what happened with the Lakers against the Clippers? What happened with the Lakers against Minnesota? What happened with the Lakers against New Orleans? What happened with the Lakers against the Warriors or the better teams in the game? So whenever they play against the Warriors, who they did beat once, but whenever they play against Phoenix, whenever they play against Utah, whenever they play against Memphis, whenever they play against the better teams in the game, the reason why they lose is because we're not that good. That's the difference. I know it looks different on paper when you see Anthony Davis and you see Russell Westbrook, you see James, you see Dwight Howard. It looks really good on paper. But when it gets on the floor, that product is completely different than what you see on paper. Completely different. So when I look at that unit, I think that they've been a dysfunctional unit from the beginning. I gave them credit where I should not have. I had them better than what I thought that they were going to be. I had them as a top 3 seed in the West. And not only did I have them as a top 3 seed in the West, when they were showing me that they weren't that good, I was giving them a break. Yo, this team is new, and James, THT, and AD are the only 3 guys on the unit that were back this season from last year. This is a completely different unit. How about we give this team some time? When in reality, I'm looking at this team and the same thing that I was talking about or the issues that I was having with them in November and in December, those are the same issues that are going on now, which tells me that this team is who they are. Which is why when you see them playing against Minnesota, when you see them playing against the Clippers, when you see them playing against Portland and teams like that, they're having such a difficult time because that's who they are. They're not Phoenix. They're not Minnesota. They're not Milwaukee. They're not Philadelphia. They're not that good. They do have one really good guy on their team who's playing at an MVP caliber level. The problem is the rest of those guys aren't. Now, it does help. It does say a lot for this team where when you lose your best interior defender, and your best interior rebounder and rim protector, right? It does say a lot about them. But even when he's in the lineup, there's still a lot of disarray that this team is in. So I wouldn't be surprised, and I catch some heat for this. I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers didn't make the playoffs. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. It would not. At the 10th spot, which I'm not a big fan of these guys, just so you guys know, I'm not a big fan of the play-in tournament. In fact, I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. The play-in tournament is a sham to me. You know what the play-in tournament is? It's the regular season. You got 82 games to get in the playoffs. 82. If you can't get in the playoffs in 82 games, you're not a playoff team. I stand on that. I've stood on that. I stand on that, and I'm gonna continue to stand on that. I am not a fan of the play-in tournament. I think it's a revenue chase, and I think it's glorifying bad teams. However, I think that Willie Green has done a really good job considering. I think he's done a really good job considering what had happened in New Orleans, losing Ball, losing Zion for the season, and to have them in the play-in tournament, right? To have them in the play-in tournament, I think that he's done a tremendous job for them. Now, I will tell you this. I would love to see Valanciunas in Charlotte because I think he's wasting away down there. I would love to see that because I love everything about Valanciunas, and I don't like him in New Orleans, just like I don't like Davion Mitchell in Sacramento. I don't like him down there because he could be so much more serviceable on a team that's making some noise and that's going to actually make the playoffs. I think that he could be so much better in Charlotte. How much better could he help? How much better would they be if he was on their unit? He would help them out tremendously. No doubt about that. So those 10 teams in the Western Conference, right? Those 10 teams in the Western Conference, those are the 10 teams that I'm looking at right now. That's my rant about them. So there you have it. So I have seen a number of different teams that I like, though. I have. OG, do you think Cat is making the superstar jump? Or do you think people just haven't been paying much attention to him? I think that it's a little bit of both of that, Jillian. When I think it's a little bit of both of that, because when I look at this Minnesota team, them getting D'Angelo Russell back, right? Them getting D'Angelo Russell back, I think he's enabled, excuse me, I think he's enabled Cat to enhance his game even more, because now that's another guy on the team who's a bigger weapon than they've had in the past, right? Not only is he a bigger weapon that they've had in the past, he's a guy who enhances Cat's game. Now you can't double Cat, especially with Russell on the floor. Not only that, Russell understands when you could go to him, when you can go to Cat, how you go to Cat. Anthony Edwards understands that also. And that just helps the team out tremendously. And I dig every bit of it. And I think that Cat has always been that guy. I'm a big Rudy guy, but I think Cat has always been that guy who Rudy has his spot on the All-NBA team. And the reason why he hasn't been on the All-NBA team, because Minnesota isn't very good. Minnesota is not very good. I think that's the difference. So I don't know if Josh Giddey being on a better team, when you say Josh Giddey being on a better team, I think that Oklahoma City team, I think that they're building it around him and they're building it around Shea. I don't know if Josh is a star. Is he serviceable? Is he a good six man? Because he's a lot smarter than what people give him credit for. A lot smarter. I watch his game and I watch how cerebral he is. He's not extremely athletic, but he's athletic enough. I think he's a lot smarter than people give him credit for, and that helps his game out tremendously. So when I look at this team, it looks to me like they're building this team around Shea, Giddey, and Dort. So the question that needs to be asked is, how do they get better? Because the Oklahoma City Thunder, they have so many draft picks that they're not going to be able to use. I think they got 5 ones this year, some nuts like that. Something crazy like that. And they're not going to be able to use all of those because they can't have all those guys on the team. They can't. So they're going to have to move. They're going to have to move these guys. They're going to have to move those picks. Now, I'm confident that you could probably, with those picks, depending on what the Lakers are doing, depending on what Minnesota's doing, because I know that Oklahoma City can't call up Minnesota and go, hey, listen, Cat will help us out tremendously, and I don't know what your plan is with him moving forward, but I got 3 ones for him. I got 4 ones for him. I don't know if Minnesota would say no to that. I wish I could say that they would, but I don't know if they would. OG, would you like the play-in tournament if you needed a certain amount of wins to make the tournament? No, Guts. I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. Actually, you do need I don't think you need a certain number of wins. Like I said, there already is a play-in tournament. Just like the same thing with the NCAA tournament. You got the 64 teams, and then you got the first 4 in, and that's nonsense, man. That is nonsense. You got an 82-game schedule. I look at the landscape, 8 teams in the East, 8 teams in the West. That's it. The 10th team in the Western Conference, for example, the Los Angeles Lakers are 10 games under 500. That is not a playoff team. That's not. That is not a playoff team. Now, I can appreciate the logic that, well, in the 85-86 season, the Bulls went to the playoffs, and they were 12, I think they were 15 games under 500. They made the playoffs as the 8th seed. They're not a playoff team neither. I didn't think that they were a playoff team neither. So I'm not a fan of this whole play-in tournament. I don't like it at all. I think that it's a sham. I think that it's a sham. So I highly doubt it too, Darrell. It's not a situation. I just threw it out there. Cat is good. There's no way Minnesota is moving off him. Cat is going to have to ask out. He's going to have to ask out in order for them to go, we'll move him. Other than that, they're not moving off of him. Nope. They're not. You're right, sir. The Lakers have beat the Jazz. They beat the Heat. They beat the Celtics. And when did they beat these teams? Because when I look at the landscape of what's going on right now, do you think that they could beat the Heat in a 7-game series right now? That's my point. Do you think that they could beat the Celtics in a 7-game series right now? Do you think that they could beat the Cavs in a 7-game series right now? Do you think James can average 38 a game, almost 40 a game, because that's what it's going to take in order to beat that team? Do you think that they can do that? Because I don't. You think they could beat the Jazz in a 7-game series? I don't. They beat the Warriors. He went for 56. Is that what it's going to take to beat them? To go for 50 from him? Is that what it's going to take? Because it looks like that's what it's going to take. Are you comfortable with him doing that? Oh, I'm sorry, not comfortable with him doing that. Let me rephrase that. Are you comfortable with putting that on him to do that? Are you comfortable with that? Because I'm absolutely not. I am absolutely not comfortable doing that. And if that's what I have to rely on in order for us to win, we're not that good. We're not. No way. No way. So, I'm happy to see Russ playing better also. I am. Russ looked good last night. He did. Russ looked good. And I think that the amount of nonsense was exactly that. You're right, Cole. He didn't have AD. That's my point. That's why they aren't as good as, even when they had AD, they were doing this. So it wasn't like when they had AD, they were rolling. They were still doing this. So how about you come with some facts, clown? If you're going to insult me, how about you come with some facts? It's not like when they had AD, they were just rolling. Where were they when they had AD? Because if I'm not mistaken, they were in the middle of the pack. I think they're at 9 right now. When they had AD, they were at 6 at best, if I'm not mistaken. Straighten me out if I'm wrong. But when they had AD, the highest seed that they were at that point was 6. 6, 9, that's not that much of a disparity. So how about you get your story straight, my good man? Russell do that, though, Zay. Yes, he will. Russell absolutely do that. Russell give you a game where he'll give you 22, 11, and 7 with 2 turnovers, and then he'll turn around and give you a game where he goes, I don't know, 26, 13, and 6 with 7 turnovers. Some nonsense like that. So that's what that is. He did outplay Embiid, yo. I did like that too, King. That was he absolutely did. No doubt about that. He absolutely outplayed him. So I do like this. Well, I look at the Celtics, man, and they only 2.5 games out of the 1 spot. 2.5 games out of the 1 spot. And with Philadelphia beating Miami last night without James Harden and without Embiid, that was pretty impressive. I dug what I saw from Maxey. I dug everything that I saw about Maxey. Everything that I saw about Maxey, I dug it. No question about it. I'm definitely feeling him. Jay, Scotty Barnes is not the rookie of the year, man. I don't know what you're looking at. You got to go check out that kid in Cleveland. He's playing better. I think he's going to make the all-league defensive team. And I think that's going to be the difference, my man. I think that's going to be the difference in him being rookie of the year because he's elite on both sides of the basketball. I don't think Scotty Barnes can say that. I think that's the difference. Muhammad, here's the question. Has Maxey played like that the entire season, though? Because he hasn't. He's been coming on as of late. And Maxey looks like the kind of guy, kind of like Garland in Cleveland, where Cleveland turned him loose. And they turned him loose because they didn't have a choice. Sexton went down, and they weren't just going to roll with Rubio. They weren't just going to roll with Rubio. So they had to turn this kid loose, and they did that. Well, the same thing looks like the same thing with Maxey. If he was on a crew where if they turned him loose, because what I saw last night was I saw a guy who wasn't bottled up. I saw a guy who basically knew I'm going to be on the floor tonight for 35 minutes, and I'm going to play, and I don't have to worry about looking over my shoulder. I'm just going to rock. And I thought that was the difference in what he was doing. I definitely dug that. No doubt about it. Definitely. Scotty Barnes is good on both ends, Mark. But the difference is that Evan Mobley is different on both ends. Completely different on both ends. So, completely different. Yes, Barnes can do that. All of that stuff. And there's a lot of guys who could do that, Alex, but the difference is that there are guys who do it better. And I think that when I look at I think Evan Mobley is a franchise player. I think Scotty Barnes is a piece. I think he's a guy that you building your unit around him, but he's not the franchise player. I think that Evan Mobley is the guy that we building our unit around. No question about that. I believe that wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly, I believe that. No doubt. I do too, Darrell. When I see Evan Mobley, I'm looking at a better version of Chris Bosh. That's what I'm looking at when I see him. Here's the thing, Jillian. When I look at your Sixers, the problem that I'm having is that James Harden and Joel Embiid have not shown me that in the playoffs they can get it done. So straighten me out, Jillian, straighten me out. Am I out of line when I say that your boys had no business losing to that Atlanta Hawk team last year? Am I out of line when I say that? Because I look at that unit and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way they should have lost to them. No way. No way that they should have lost to that team. He did, King. And I'm not fighting nothing that Joel is doing. Nothing. We're talking about a guy who he would have won the league MVP last year had he not gotten hurt and was out for over a month. There's no way that I'm buying. They were the best team in the Eastern Conference. So there's no way I'm buying him not winning the league MVP had he not gotten hurt. I'm sure of that. The question that I have is what I saw last season in the playoffs, how they fell apart the way that they did. And it wasn't just Ben Simmons. It was all of them. They had no business losing to the Atlanta Hawks. They were a better team than them. Yeah. They had a better group of guys. I think Doc Rivers got out-coached, and I think that they got outplayed. Tobias looked good last night, though. He did. He looked good last night. But until James Harden can show me in the playoffs, and I don't mean in round one, I'm talking about when we get deeper into the playoffs, because he's shown countless times that when we get deeper into the playoffs, his game fades. And his game fades simply because, number one, he doesn't take care of his body because he breaks down. And his game and his game suffers as a result of that. Now, because last season was a prime example of that. He was almost invisible last year in the play. There were stretches where I forgot that he was on the floor in that Eastern Conference semifinal series with the Milwaukee Bucks. There were stretches when I forgot that James Harden was even out there. So until he shows me that he could get it done more, until he shows me that he can get it done more than in the regular season, I have to believe that I have to go off the evidence. And the evidence shows me that those guys don't have enough to win it because he hasn't shown it. So, and why was he injured, Muhammad? He was injured because he doesn't take care of his body. That's why. He wasn't injured because it was a fluke injury. This is who James Harden is. He came into camp out of shape in Houston. Then he got traded. And then he had to play his way into shape. And he ultimately got hurt. That was the problem. Can you explain the difference between the MVP and the best player? Well, there are times when the MVP is the best player. So let's make sure that we're clear on that. There are times, more times than not, that the MVP is the best player in the game. More times than it's not that. So, for example, I don't think Joker is the best player in the game. But I think that he was the most valuable to his team's success, considering where they were last year and losing Jamal Murray and what they were doing. And then when I look at what Joker is doing this year, how they've dropped to, I think they're half a game. They're a half a game out of the 7th spot, and in that half a game, Joker leads the league in PER. He leads the league in offensive win shares, defensive win shares, total win shares, defensive plus minus, offensive plus minus. He leads the league in that, and he has a lower usage rate. But I don't think he's the best player. I think Giannis is the best player in the game. Joker's PER is 32.4. Giannis's PER is 32. He's not that far off in win shares. He's not that far off in defensive plus minus. He's not that far off in offensive plus minus. He averages more points than Joker. He averages more blocks than Joker. I think Joker averages 1 or 2 more assists, but I think that Giannis is the best player in the game. So if Giannis were to win the league MVP, I think that the league MVP would be the best player in the game today if it went to Giannis. Just like in 2013 when James won the league MVP. James is the best player in the game. I thought he was the best player in the game, and he should have won the league MVP. The majority of the time, when a guy wins the league MVP, it's the best player in the game, 9 times out of 10. James, that's not ridiculous to say that, because when I look at the Bulls and I look at them like I look at the Warriors, they've been going the other way. Now, I appreciate the fact that they just got Pat Williams back. I like that. I do like the fact that they got Pat Williams back and they got Caruso back. Right? They got Caruso back in the lineup. They got Pat Williams back in the lineup. And DeRozan is doing what he's doing. Zach LaVine is doing what he's doing. I think the difference is I think that they're missing something down low because Tristan Thompson is not it. It's bad enough he doesn't give them offense, but he's not that dirty work guy that they need neither. And I think that that's the difference. I think that's the difference. So you might be right with that, King. He might be washed. He might be washed. I think it's 0.07 points. This is the closest that the scoring race has been since George Gervin and David Thompson in, I think, the 77-78 season, where with those two guys, I think it was 0.05 between those two guys. This is the closest that it's been. It hasn't been closer than that. Actually, King, he's not that bad. Vooch is actually a good defender. I think the problem is that they don't have anybody else to supplement what he can't do. So Vooch is good in the paint. I think Vooch is good at cutting off angles. I think Vooch is good at stopping dribble penetration in the paint. But he's not as good as Rudy at cleaning up messes. So he's not terrible. Rudy's so much better at cleaning up messes. Bam is so much better. Ayton is so much better at cleaning up messes. Vooch isn't as good as those guys at cleaning up messes, but he's actually good at holding his own against guys who are down there with him. But I think the problem in Chicago is that they don't have that other guy in the paint. And that's the difference in why they look the way they do. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about Cole. Cole's probably a Kobe guy, so that's why he is. That's why the first thing I'm thinking is Cole is a kid. That's number one. Number two, I'm 100% confident he's a Kobe guy. And number three, because I don't bow down and I don't think that Kobe Bryant is the best basketball player ever. That's why I'm ridiculous, because I don't agree with that, which I don't. And I'm not going to. And you're not going to bully me into doing that. And if you don't like it, my man, there's the door. It's that simple. Nah, he doesn't, King. And the reason why he does it, King, is because when I look at what Siakam has done, he's been up and down. He's absolutely been up and down. So I don't think that he makes the All-NBA team. So when you look at the All-NBA team this year, right? So the first team, who are the guards? Who are the guards on All-NBA team, first team this year? I think DeRozan is the 2 guard. Chris Paul missed the last 8 weeks of the season. So I think he misses out on being an All-NBA performer. So who goes in his place? I think James is the small forward. I think Giannis is the other power forward. And I think that Embiid is the 5. Right? So it's definitely not Kyrie. You can't, there's no way that you could have a guy who played less than half the games. He played less than half the games this season. A first-team All-NBA performer, kid. Nah, you got to do better than that. No way. There's no way that you think that. When I think about the second team, the thing about Luka's position changes. Luka's a forward 1 year, and then this year they got him listed at the point guard. So I think that I think you can make the argument that Ja's first team All-NBA this year. So if Ja's first team All-NBA this year, then who's second team All-NBA at the point guard spot? That means that we gotta put Luka there. Luka at the point guard. Who's at the 2 guard? Excuse me. Who's at the 2 guard? I think Book is at the 2 guard. Who's at the small forward? I think that's Jason Tatum's spot. Yep, I think that's Jason Tatum's spot. Who's at the power forward? Who's at the 4 spot? Because I think Embiid is at the 5. This is why I want the Miami Heat to get a 5-man so we can move Bam to the 4. So who's at the 4 spot as an All-NBA performer? I don't think KD makes it neither. KD missed 2 months, man. No. KD and Kyrie, they both missed 2 months. We are. KD and missed 2 months. I don't think LeBron's the best player in the world. So that's not true, my man. I don't think that. I think it's Giannis. I do not. I do not think LeBron is the best player in the world today. No, I don't. I think it's Giannis. Anthony Davis is out too. So it's not a lot of depth at the 4. I think Jason Tatum got that spot at the 3. I got to go do some home. Jason Tatum plays the 3. So a car, not Holmes or Turner would be good. How about the kid? You think you could pry away the kid from Houston, Woods? I think he would be great for you guys. And now you can actually move Bam to the 4. Oh, I would love that. I think that would absolutely be great. I think that would absolutely be great. No doubt about it. I think Towns makes it. I think he makes 3rd team All NBA this year. I would love him, and I would love Woods down here. I don't think you could pry him away from Houston, though. I don't. No, he's not the 4. Cole, get your facts straight. He plays the 3. So I think you should get your facts straight, sir. Did you? You coached him in AAU ball? I like his game. Sabonis also does have has a really good shot at making an All-NBA team. Probably 3rd team though. Probably 3rd team. Maybe 2nd team. No, I think Trey can, a guy that's almost 30 and 10, it's going to be hard to keep him off the All-NBA team. Even though he didn't make, he made the All-Star team last year, but him making the All-Star team, like Julius Randle is not an All-NBA performer. No. Trey was an alternate on the All-Star team last year, and he was like 28-9. So, but it's not ridiculous because I remember Dragic didn't make the All-Star team, but he also made the All-NBA team. So, same thing happened with Jordan. DeAndre Jordan in the 2015-2016 season. He didn't make the All-Star team. He was 1st team All-NBA. So, I mean, that's nuts. So, Miles Bridges got a shot at making an All-NBA team. That's not, sir. Steph is on the 2nd team. Yeah. Steph is on the 2nd team. I mean, Luka got to. If Steph is on the 2nd team, either Luka got to go to 3rd team or he got to play the small forward. And then if he plays the small forward, that means Jason Tatum goes to the 3rd team. But they got Luka listed as a point guard this year. Right? So I don't know how that's going to work. They got Luka listed as a point guard. Steph is a 2nd team All-NBA performer. They may put Luka. Well, I don't think Luka has played better than Ja. Even though I think that they were rolling more, I don't think he's played better. Oh. Kuminga and Bridges have virtually the same skill set. Mark, let me make sure that we're 100% clear, my man. If Kuminga was in New Orleans, if he was in San Antonio, if he was in Sacramento, if he was in Portland, if he was in Washington, he'd be up for Rookie of the Year. No doubt about that. He'd be up for Rookie of the Year if he was in any of those places, which is why Bob Myers knows what he has in that guy. Bob Myers knows what he has in that guy. And he knows that when teams call, he's got to put them on notice right from the beginning. When you call me, do not ask for Kuminga because he's not available. Because we all know, I mean, maybe I'm in the minority, but I think that Draymond Green is on his way out. I don't know how much longer Draymond Green is going to be on the Golden State Warriors. And that's going to be Kuminga's spot. That's going to be him. So that's going to be him. Herbert is better than Kuminga. Herbert. Herbert. Nah, Els, we can't do that. And the reason why we can't do that, because the best 5 players might be 5 bigs. The best 5 players are Giannis, James, KD, Jokic, and Embiid. That's the first team All-NBA right there. That's 5 big guys. I'm not going that far, Mark. I'm giving him 2 more years. And that's as far as I'm going with him. 2 more years I'm giving Draymond, and I think he's over. I think he moves into the booth. I don't think that he's going to sit on somebody's bench. I think 2 more years and he moves into the booth. Yeah, I do have Draymond out. And the reason why I got Draymond out before Klay is because Klay got a skill set that's everlasting. Klay got a skill set that he could do that for 7, 8. Klay is only 31 years old. Excuse me. Pardon me. 31 or 32. Klay could do this. Klay got a skill set as a shooter. He could do this for another 4 or 5 years. I don't think Draymond can do what he does for another 4 or 5 years. I don't think he's going to hold up. I don't. I do not think he's going to hold up. I don't think he's going to hold up for another 4 or 5 more years. My top 5 backcourt of all time: Steph and Klay, Magic and Norm Nixon, Steph and Klay, Magic and Norm Nixon. Beal and Wall? No, I don't think that they're top 5 all time. No, I don't think so. Let's see. Steph and Klay, Magic and Norm Nixon, Zeke and Joe Dumars. Definitely Zeke and Joe Dumars. Can't believe that there's no way I could forget about them. Zeke and Joe Dumars. Yo, y'all gonna kill me for this, but yo, I love Derek Fisher and Kobe Bryant. I didn't like them in the backcourt. I love that backcourt. I don't think it's a top 5 backcourt of all time, but I love that backcourt with those 2 guys. I love them. No doubt about that. I love those 2 guys in the backcourt. With those 2 together, no doubt. So, once again, Magic and Norm Nixon, Steph and Klay, Zeke and Joe D, Walt Frazier and Pearl. I don't see anybody from the 80s. Mo Cheeks and Andrew Toney, they were awesome. Yes, they were. Dennis Johnson and Danny Ainge, no. Irvin James was not a backcourt. James played the 3. Irv ran in the backcourt with J.R. Smith, so that doesn't work. No, that doesn't work, sir. Nope, that does not work. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No. Irvin James didn't play in the backcourt, so that doesn't work. Mm-mm. I like that Tony Parker and Ginobili. Yeah, that's a good backcourt, man. That's a damn good backcourt. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's a damn good backcourt. Chauncey Billups and Rip Hamilton. That was a damn good backcourt also. Was Chauncey and Rip better than Rondo and Ray? Because when Rondo got Ray was on the other side of his prime. That's a good one. I don't think so. I don't know, man. I don't know if Chauncey and I don't know if Chauncey and Rip were better than Rondo and Ray. I'm not sure. No, Russ and Harden didn't do it long enough. They didn't. Even though Walt Frazier and Pearl didn't do it long, you had guys who stayed around for a long. Like I said, I catch a lot of heat, yo. I do. I catch a lot of heat because I love that Bryant and Derek Fisher backcourt because Derek Fisher was so good in his role. He was so good in his role. He was so good at knocking down open shots. He was smart. One of the better defenders in the game. He wasn't an elite, but he was one of the better defenders in the game. So, King, I like Lowry and DeRozan. Were they better than Wall and Bradley Beal? I think that they were. I think they was better than Wall and Bradley Beal. What do you think? Liam, good to see you, brother. Good to talk to you, my man. You know where to find me at. Mm-hmm. I love. Here's the thing, Alex. I didn't like DeRozan and Lowry. I love those two. The problem is that they kept running into James. That was the problem. No matter what they did, they ran into James. And that's what screwed them all up. That's what threw a monkey wrench in everything that they were doing. They ran into James. Stock and Hornacek wasn't better than Stock and Jeff Malone. And Stock and Hornacek were awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I was around during that time. I actually went to see them play numerous times. But I'm not sure Stock and Hornacek were better than Stock and Jeff Malone. Those two were awesome. Hey, Hoops, let me tell you something, yo. When you tell me about MJ and Harper, you're going to kill me for this, but I hated seeing Eddie Jones get traded from the Lakers. You know why? Because the reason why is because when they got Phil Jackson in that 99-2000 season, I'm thinking to myself, if Eddie Jones was on that unit, that's Michael Jordan and Ron Harper 2.0. That's who that is. Oh, I would have loved that. That would have been absolutely awesome. It breaks my heart that he was able. It breaks my heart that he got traded when he got traded. Because if Phil was there, I don't think he gets traded. I don't. I do not. Not only was he a bucket, he was locked down. He was a lockdown defender. Lockdown defender. Yeah. Jerry West and Gail Gilbert were pretty awesome. They absolutely were. I think a lot of that had to do with James. I do. I can't give you James Harden and CP3. I can't. Mm-mm. I cannot do it. That's not a top 5 backcourt all time when you only playing one season. Mm-mm. Hey, Hollywood, I got a soft spot for that Derek Fisher Bryant backcourt because I was around when they were running around and they were awesome, yo. I loved everything about them. I loved how Bryant clamped down, how Derek Fisher clamped down. I love those dudes. I didn't like them. I loved them. I loved everything about them, no doubt. They were together for 8 years. 8 years they was together. Went to the Western Conference Finals 5 times in 8 years. Won the Western Conference Championship 4 times. So, yeah. I love them dudes. Paul George is not a 2-guard. Paul George plays the small forward. Let's knock this nonsense off with Paul George being a 2-guard. No, he isn't. PG plays the small forward. And because he shoots the long ball, he looks like he plays the 2. Ray Allen plays the 2. Book plays the 2. DeMar DeRozan plays the 2. Paul George is not a shooting guard. Paul George is a small forward. No, he's not. So let's dead that. Let's dead it. I think the best backcourt in the game today is CP3 and Book. I do believe that. Yes, sir, I do. How'd that go in 18? How'd that go in 19? That didn't go very well in 19. There's a reason why he got moved. Reason why he got moved. I'm 100% confident Chris Mullin played the 2. But those guys were interchangeable. Mullin would play the 2, and then Richmond would play the 2, and it worked like that with those guys. Definitely Cousy and Jones. I'm not on the fence about that. I'm not thinking maybe. Definitely Cousy and Jones are in that conversation. Definitely. Definitely. Sam Jones, a top 10 2-guard all time. No question about it. Mm-hmm. No, I don't think so. Well, when I think about a guy's number being retired, well, what's the criteria for being an all-time great? What do you have to do to be mentioned as an all-time great? Alex English was a better scorer than Bobby Jones. You got to win. That's all. But let me ask you this question: Do you have is Leonard an all-time great in Toronto? Because you mentioned win, Hollywood. So is Leonard an all-time great in Toronto? You think so? 1 year? That's it? That's all it take? Wow. It only takes one. All I got to do is do this 1 year, and I'm cemented as an all-time great. Oh, man. I can't get with that logic. I can't. Because if that's the case, then there are plenty of guys who've gotten on teams that have done it one time in 1 year, and I don't think that they were all-time greats. So if that's if that's the logic, are we hanging up Leonard's jersey? Is that what we're doing? Right, you are a 25-year franchise, and you had one guy in 1 year get on a loaded unit and become the difference in y'all winning the NBA championship. So you're going to put him ahead of Vince Carter. You're going to put him ahead of DeMar DeRozan, even though he's a better player than those guys. I won't fight that. So you want to put him ahead of Chris Bosh and those guys. When you talk about being an all-time great, you ready to do that in 1 year? Nah, man, no. I vehemently disagree with that. No doubt about it. I do. Nope. That's right, Mark. You never had a player like him, and you only had him for 8 months. 8 months. So you meet a girl and you and this girl hang out for 8 months, and you already had a great job. Not only did you already had a great job, you live in a great neighborhood. You live in a great neighborhood, you got a great house, you got a great job, but you can't seem to get over that hump. But you meet this girl, and you and this girl hang out for about 8 months, and she pushes you over the top, and then she's gone. She better than all the other girls you've been with? She's in that conversation with all the other girls you've been with in an 8-month span? That's it? Damn. She didn't hang around for years. She didn't even have to hang around for 10 years. She didn't hang around for 2 years. She didn't hang around for 4 years. She didn't hang around for 5 years. She didn't even hang around a year. But she's in that conversation with the best girls you've ever been with. Man. That's a tough one, my man. That is. That is definitely a tough one. I don't know if Leonard is an all-time great in Toronto. I think he's beloved in Toronto, and I think that he'll never have to pay for a meal ever again in Toronto. No doubt about that. But an all-time great after 8 months? What's the quarterback name in Philadelphia that won them the Super Bowl? They got a statue of him. Nick Foles, an all-time great Philadelphia Eagle? Do I put when we talk about the pantheon of great quarterbacks for the Philadelphia Eagles, do I mention him when I say Randall Cunningham? Do I mention him when I say Donovan McNabb? Do I mention him when I say Ron Jaworski? Do I say Nick Foles? I don't think Brown is an all-time great Laker. No, I do not. Nope. Hollywood, let me ask you this question. If your Lakers don't make the playoffs this year, that'll be twice in 4 years y'all didn't make the playoffs. Won the NBA championship one time, and you got bounced out of the playoffs in the first round. That's an all-time great Laker to you? We hanging up his jersey? We hanging up his jersey. That's what we doing? We hanging up his, because there's a difference between, now, understand the difference, King, and understand the difference between better player and better Raptor. There's a difference. It's not the same thing. There's a difference. Just like there's a difference between, like I said about Bryant. I think Shaq is a better player. I think Bryant is a better Laker. No doubt about that. No doubt. I think Chamberlain is a better player. I think Bryant is a better Laker. Absolutely there is, Zillows. Zill, absolutely. That's my logic right there, Zill. In order for us to hang your jersey up, don't you have to be around for a while? We're not hanging your jersey up after 1 year. No. I would be very surprised, King, if the Lakers hung up James's jersey. I'd be very surprised at that. I would be extremely surprised if James, for example, today, with what the Lakers are doing, if it ended today and he retired today and they didn't win the NBA championship and they got bounced in the first round of the playoffs or didn't even make the playoffs, right? Or didn't even make the playoffs, I would be extremely surprised if the Lakers hung up number 23 and put James's name on the back of it. I would be very surprised at that. Very surprised. The Heat hung up Jordan's jersey because Jordan was awesome for a long time. They didn't hang his jersey up because he played here. No. Eastern Conference and Western Conference championship predictions today. In the Eastern Conference, I think that the Milwaukee Bucks, I think that they beat the Miami Heat in 7 games in the Eastern Conference championship. And in the Western Conference championship, I think that the Phoenix Suns, I wouldn't be surprised if they saw Memphis. I would not. It would not surprise me at all. Vintage Gamer, there's no way that you think James is a better Laker than Shaq. There's no way you believe that. If you know anything about the Lakers, there's no way that you think that he's a better Laker than Shaquille O'Neal. No way. There's no way that you believe that. None. If you know anything about the Lakers and their tradition, there's no way that LeBron James in year 4, if he was done today, you can make the argument that he's a better Laker than Shaquille O'Neal. There's no way that you can sell me that. No way. No way. Has to be. Absolutely. King, here's the thing, man. When I think about being an all-time great for a franchise, these guys who played for these franchises that are all-time greats, they were there for a long time. Not only were they there for a long time, they were great for a long time. The reason why they're gonna hang Shaq, the reason why they hung Shaq's jersey up is because Shaq, the Miami Heat, were basically an expansion team before Shaq got there. They didn't really have, I mean, they made it to the Eastern Conference Championship one time, but they were essentially a team that was turning into something. Shaq legitimized them. He made them legit. And in 3.5 years, turned them into a championship contender. James being in Miami for the 4 years that he was there. 2 of his 4 league MVPs were in Miami. They were in the NBA Finals 4 straight years. You can legitimately say that James is one of the best Miami Heat of all time, and they're going to hang his jersey up. I can get with that logic, no problem. But when you talk about being an all-time great Laker, man, that list is like this. And they've had guys on that list. They got guys on that list who were awesome for a long time. They weren't awesome for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years. They were awesome for years. And that was the tradition. That's why they were that good. Think about that for a second, Julian. He was a great player for Oklahoma. He was a great player in Seattle for that organization. I think Nick Collison, I think he played 12, 13 years in Seattle. And in that process, I think he's a second all-time leading rebounder. I think he played the most games. Same thing with you. Think about Udonis Haslem for a second. Udonis Haslem, they're gonna hang his jersey up one day. I think he's an all-time leading rebounder. I don't know if there's a guy that played more minutes than Udonis Haslem. So, yeah. That's what that is. Yeah. So, all right, guys, it's about that time for me. I'll be back on it. I'll try to get back on again tomorrow night. I'm definitely feeling this. We're getting into the great part of the season, man. Playoffs are coming up. We got the MVP debate. We got the All-NBA debate going on. We got the All-League defensive debate. So this stuff is getting good, man. This isn't what it was. This stuff isn't what it was 3 months ago. You know, the temperature's getting warmer, and it's boiling now. So we're getting closer. We're definitely getting closer. So I'm definitely gonna stay glued into you guys. So I'll see you guys soon, man. But until then, take it light, but take it.